Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shoot.edit's online training. Today, we are talking about 3 simple creativity sparks for you to use during your upcoming wedding photography busy season. My name is Jared Bauman. I'm the president here at Shoot.edit. I will be your host today with the majority being conducted by Montana Dennis. Let's go over a couple of quick things about today's online training, the software, and then we'll dive into the content. The online training software is pretty simple to use. We really encourage you to use that chat feature. It's located on the right-hand side of your screen. I'll be asking questions throughout. Majority of them will be at the end, but really the best part is that this is an interactive training and that you have access to all sorts of fellow photographers who are here with you. You can carry on conversations with other attendees to get your questions answered. So if you miss something that Montana said, or if you have a question about something he said, one of the best ways is to use that chat window to talk and interact with everybody else. Please note that these conversations are live, so be mindful and be respectful. Let me also tell you a little bit about us here at Shoot.edit. We are the first choice post-processing partner for the Wedding Pro and everything that the Wedding Pro shoots. We make your images look consistent based on your color profile. We do it fast. Nobody is faster. So we provide turnaround time as fast as 48 hours, which helps you get back to doing things like being more creative and focusing on your creativity when you're shooting. Today, we have partnered up with 2 wonderful companies to help us out with today's online training. One of them is Lens Pro to Go. They provide fantastic lens and other photography rentals. And then we have Holdfast. Holdfast is a wonderful company that helps photographers with gear to empower them to shoot and whatnot. We're going to have some links up for them. We just want to give them a shout out and say thank you very much for them coming on board and helping us support this. They're supporters of Montana. And also good friends of us here at Shoot.edit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about today and what we're going to be going over. So Montana is going to be talking about basically 3 things and probably a host of many more inside of those 3 topics, but 3 topics on what you can do right now to spark your creativity for this upcoming busy season. One of the areas he's going to focus on is how to be intentional with every image that you take in order to create a very cohesive story. Number 2, that he's going to focus on is how to find and then manipulate light in any scenario to develop a mood to the images. And then number 3 area he'll be focusing on is how to use only the gear that you need to quickly capture those memorable moments. I know on wedding days, you know, there's only a certain amount of gear you can bring, and he'll be talking through a lot of the gear there that you need to capture that. A quick background on Montana, then I'll turn it over to him. He is a Santa Barbara and worldwide wedding photographer. He specializes in weddings with intention. He believes that even in the most challenging conditions, there's beauty, emotion, joy, and laughter. His site is unique and different. It is intentional, which is the second time we've heard that word. I think he wants you to hear that word. To achieve what he loves, to get those pieces that will be passed down from generation to generation, he needs to gain his clients' trust. I personally will say, Montana, that I've always been in awe of your work, and I'm really excited to have you here because I've always enjoyed following your work online and seeing some of the creativity that you bring to shoots. And you've been doing this for a long time. I think that's a testament to you and always being able to bring something new to a shoot. I think that's going to be an area that a lot of photographers are going to get to enjoy today, not just for someone who's new, but if you've been doing this for a while, you've been shooting weddings for years and years, you could also really learn a lot on how to become an even better creative at that point in your career.
Of course. How are you doing, Jared?
Well, welcome on board. I'm good.
Yeah.
Welcome on board. Sorry to take up the first 5 minutes chatting, but
you're okay.
We're off to the races here. So yeah, I'm really excited about today. Thanks again for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. So yeah, like, excuse me. Of course, my throat happens to clog at that one point. Thank you for having me. Again, like Jared said, Santa Barbara-based wedding photographer, been shooting for about 9 to 10 years. Absolutely love it. And I'm glad that you see that I want this to be an intentional webinar. So to get started here, guys, thanks for having me. Stoked to be here. Really excited to share some of the information that I go through on a daily basis with my clients, and some of the things that I think through on my sessions. So we'll kind of run through those things. And obviously, if you had questions, please write them in the chat box, and we'll get to you guys. So today I'm focusing on the creative session. This could be anything from a portrait session to a couples session. Obviously, with weddings, we have to be creative and thoughtful in how we capture the images of our clients. And I can't stress enough that we as photographers have a unique ability and a special gift to actually be with our clients on the day of. We're the people that are around them the most. And so to be intentional, and you'll hear this word come up a lot as we go through this, but to be intentional with them is so important. So to jump right in, my goal with my clients is to be intentional with them. I want to get involved with them. I want to ask them questions. I want to know who they are. If you are a photographer, you're a person, you're a human, you know what you like, what your preferences are, how you like to be treated. And kind of the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. But what I want to come to you today with is treat others how they want to be treated. And that's the only way we can do that is if we actually are intentional with them and asking questions. So the first half of this, you'll kind of hear me mention that a lot. But so I want to get to know my couples. I want to get to know who they are. I want to get to know, what their story is. A lot of the times I'll ask photographers, can you tell a story with one image? And a lot of people say yes. I mean, there are images out there in the world that are breathtaking and just impactful. And my goal with my clients is to be able to tell a story with one image, even though we do take a ton of imagery. So what is their story? How am I getting to know what their story is? Who are they to each other? How much do they love each other? Those types of things. What will their kids see when they see these images? Will they see two people that love each other? Will they see two people that choose each other? And we'll know how well, our clients love each other by how their grandkids see and love each other as well. So these images that we're creating are being passed down for generation to generation, and it's important for us to know that. So in terms of the questions that I like to ask, I want to get to know them. Again, I want to know what they mean to each other, what their love looks like, what their intimacy looks like, not on a too intimate level there. I want to stress that for certain photographers. It might be a little different. So, but come up with these questions. Make sure that you're finding questions that you can actually ask your clients and lead them down a road that you actually get to know them. Some of them might be, how does he make her laugh? What does he look like to her in those moments when he's loving on her and making her feel secure? How does she feel secure when he's loving her? Those types of things. We want to be thoughtful in the sense that we want to know who they are to each other. We want to know what their relationship looks like, and we want to be able to capture those images so that they can put these things on their walls and they're going to live on forever. That leads us to how we create. So with creating, we are literally bringing something into existence that didn't exist before. So we have, again, a unique opportunity to do something so rad for them. Every time I go on a session, I'm so excited. And I have to say that for me, when everybody goes right, I go left. And what I mean by that is that when I'm thinking about creating for my clients, I don't not only want to create, imagery that they love, that they're gonna put in their house, or they're gonna give to their grandparents, or they're gonna have for their parents. I want to create something that, again, is going to go on their wall and it's going to be a statement. So with this image, just the image that's on the screen that you're seeing, we're at the ocean. We're at a place where you could take some fairly typical photos. And I want to make sure that you understand that I do take normal photos. I don't just take these these crazy wall art pieces that you would see, like, as a major piece. I do take normal portraits, and I don't want to speak from any type of pedestal making you think that I don't take normal photos or haven't repeated photos. So with this image that you see, I took my time, and creating takes time. Creating takes thinking outside the box, thinking outside the norm. Again, when everybody goes right, I tend to go left. I'm one of those people that when the iPhone came out, I waited. I wanted to see what it was. I was a late adopter, as you'd say, but I wanted to not be the first to gravitate towards that, because I wanted to make sure that it was something that was for me. With my imagery, I want to make sure that I'm creating something that's going to be for them through my eyes. So it does take time. Again, with the beach, you can go so many different directions. You can go, I mean, you could photograph on the top of a mountaintop. But the point here is I want to stress that you need to take your time in creating. Again, this image to me speaks so much volume, because this is the photo that they put on their wall. This is the photo of all the images I took. This stressed their adventure to each other. It was creative. They had fun. It took a couple tries to get this image. But when people walk in their home, they look at this image and they go, it stops them. It stops them in their tracks. It makes them think. And again,
Quick
that
question for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Quick question for you, as I've been listening to you talk so far. So you talked a lot about asking questions. Would you say this image is not just an amazing image, but it's an image that, like, did you take into consideration some of the things you learned about them specifically to create this image? Or is it more that you really found an amazing moment and it happened to also work out well for them, that they liked it so much they put in their wall? Does that make sense? You talked about asking questions, and how did you marry that? How did you marry that in with something like this?
So they're huge adventurers. They literally like go hiking all the time. They're at the ocean all the time. They love athletics, so they're fairly athletic people, and they wanted to incorporate. They grew up in Santa Barbara, and they wanted to incorporate the ocean and the outdoors, but they also wanted this image that, hey, we're adventurous. So they did want to marry those two things, and he, as a man, as the groom, super kind, super loving, very much a leader in their relationship. Very, very kind, loving leader. And it was one of those things that what's funny is that this image was taken, 5 years ago, and it still speaks so much to who they are as people. Does that answer your question, Jared?
It does. It totally does. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that fascinates me is how you're able to kind of bring in a lot of conversations and a lot of purposeful, intentional probing or question answering to create that image. And, I think a lot of times these images maybe happen in the moment, and it doesn't necessarily have the connection that you're talking about. So I just wanted to kind of ask about that and see how you connected both what you have in conversation and intentional conversation beforehand, and then how you connect it to the an image like this.
And prior to these sessions, I do coach them on, hey, we're going to be playing, we're going to be having fun. Is that okay with you? Asking for their I want them to be involved in the process. So going prior to the session, they know that they're going to be creating with me, because I can't do it without them. I can put them in this position and it could be a great photo, but the fact that they were intentionally like running across, they wanted to be active, they wanted to be moving, and not just stagnant. So I was like, hey, I want you to lead her, but I want you to do what you want. So as the waves are coming in, they saw it. They saw the vision that I had, and they're like, yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll actually run up and down the ocean, and just play and have fun. And there are a couple more images in this series where they're like dancing doing stuff like that. And they're a hilarious couple. So that's amazing.
Got it.
So to keep moving forward, that creating with intention, seeing the vision. I'm glad you brought that up, Jared. Is that this image to me? I had sight with it. I had a vision with it, and in the moment, I had to explain it to them. I had to like get them involved. And so to push to the next slide here, creating and playing is a huge part of what I do. So I want to stimulate play in my photographs. I want to stimulate play in my sessions. And we've all been around dinner parties or people that are laughing and having fun, and it's contagious. Like having fun is so contagious. And when I'm laughing and having fun and playing with them, they're getting so involved in what I'm doing with them that they just start trusting. They just start playing. They just start having fun. And one thing that I want to give to everybody is we need to start playing a little bit more. I was having a conversation with one of the trainers that I actually train with, and there are these guys that compete in these competitions, and some of them are actually having fun. And when people are having fun, you can't compete against that. There's something so natural that's coming out when you're playing and having fun. Like when a kid's running up and down a street, they're not worried about, if they've eaten or if they slept, or they're just having fun. They're just playing. And to bring that into my photography, when I'm playing and having fun with my clients, they're not worried about the stressors of life or the things that they have to do afterwards. They're so in the moment with each other. They're just having fun. And that's what brings these images is, again, coaching them prior to the session and saying, hey, we're going to go out and my intention is to create lasting imagery for your walls, but we're going to have fun. We're going to play during these sessions, and we're going to create with each other. Some of the games that I like to play with them, I wish I had more time to explain all of them, but some of them, nonverbal communication, it's a huge part of our life. And the way I came up with this was actually traveling. When you travel to another country and you don't know the language, you're using nonverbal communication, eyesight, hand gestures, stuff like that. So I came up with this game in my head that the only thing that they would be able to do is communicate with one word. And in the beginning of the session, I will ask them, hey, what's one of the funniest words you've heard or something like that, or you've said. And one of my clients said pizza. They just thought it was a hilarious word. So in my mind, I already had this framework to play this game with them. So when it came time, I just said, hey, I want you to, and it all came out of just being confident in the actual game. And I said, hey, I want you guys to play this game with me. Just trust me. I'm going to have you guys have a conversation. You can use different tones, all that kind of stuff. Have fun with it. But the only word that you get to use is pizza. And literally the second they started doing it, they were just having a blast. Like they were using different tones, and he was making her laugh, and she was, it was just a literally hysterical laughing. And what's neat about it is that they're still communicating, they're still working with each other. And I know that doesn't sound too intentional, but the actual intention behind that game is to get them to connect. It's to get them to have fun with each other, to let loose a little bit, and not focus too much on, oh my gosh, I love you so much, and a deeper emotion, which I do get into that type of stuff. But the laughter that it brought was absolutely hilarious. On the flip side of that, one of the things that I do like to ask the client in the moment is, again, what does this person mean to you? So that, on the flip side of a fun game, can be something that you can lead them through, and it can be something that they actually are saying amazing words to each other and super impactful in a super impactful moment. So you can get these photos that are absolutely cherished by them, and that's the goal. So creating and playing are super, super, super big for me. Capturing the emotion in those moments, whether it's laughter, joy, um, any of it. I love all of it. Um, and again, I briefly brought up that I want you guys to take your time through these things. We are all so much in a rush these days that we forget to slow down. And when you're coaching your clients, to take your time, or to not take your time, to take their time through this process, it allows them to see, hey, there's no rush through these moments. We want to actually capture who we are. Um, the image that's on the screen, this image took me about 10 minutes to create. This was in St. Louis, and it literally was about taking my time, resting in those moments, allowing them to be to just enjoy the moment, to just, instead of moving on to the next thing, we
So
sat there.
let me ask you
Go
a
ahead.
question about that, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
because I mean, one of the things I initially wrote down as I was preparing for this today was this dichotomy, or this constant struggle that exists for a wedding photographer between time and creativity,
Hmm.
you know, and the fact that on the wedding day, it's so rare. It does happen, but it seems so rare
That
that
you
you
get.
have time,
Yeah,
you know. And so
of course.
is this something where you're talking about slowing down even in the midst of it being really crazy busy? Is this more something that you focus on creating the right amount of time ahead of time, you know, to the point of the way you plan the day? Like, how do you find time to slow down? Like, I think a lot of wedding photographers are probably watching and saying, I just never have that time on the wedding day. I
Hmm.
never have the time to be able to slow down. I have to get a certain number of images in a certain amount of time. And so how do you balance that?
Great question. Part of it is coaching. When I do one-on-one sessions with photographers, we do spend a huge amount of time on how to coach your clients through this process. Um, that will help you if you do the prior work to these sessions or to a wedding day. You will end up with more portrait time with the client. And hands down, every time I do it, even if they're late, we still end up with 30 to 40 minutes within there. Now, there are times that it will, that we can't plan for everything. So there are times I've shot family formals, bridal party, and couples portraiture in about 25 minutes, which was insane. It was, I mean, I'm sure there are photographers out there that are going, yeah, that's me every single time. It can be done that way, but there were times in that specific wedding day where I pulled them out from the dancing, I pulled them out from enjoying, and I went and created with them. Um, so it can be done throughout the night, and I never want to pressure my clients to have an hour, but realistically, the more time they give me, the better the imagery will be, or the more artistic, or the more calm that they will be. Um, so to answer your question, Jared, I think that coaching is huge. Coaching your clients is absolutely necessary. So if you know, and I have some I have a slide coming up that we can talk about this more. Um, but you have to know yourself. You have to know what you need to get there, and knowing that you need some time, you need 30 minutes, whatever it may be. That's up to you
Mm-hmm.
to decide.
Right. Yeah. This isn't by accident, I guess, is that this time happens. You know, you're creating that time. You're creating that space to be creative.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I know that I need at least 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, whether it's broken up with them, because this is one of the biggest days of their lives. There's a huge lead up to it, and I want to make sure that the words that they're saying to each other, the things that they're sharing with each other, are actually captured in the portrait session. So that's a huge portion for me. So again, knowing yourself to lead yourself, you have to know what you need, um, to create. And if you're constantly falling behind, then maybe it's something that you can handle on the front end, even prior to the wedding day, saying, "Hey guys, if things fall behind, I want to make sure that you know I'm there for you. I'm there to create the best I can, and I want to deliver that. So if things run over, or things run behind, I will be pulling you out during the session or during the reception or stuff like that. Is that okay with you? And if they say no, then maybe they're not your client. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they're stoked to use your expertise in their day and move forward with that in a sense. So thanks for asking that, Jared. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. I'll try not to keep interrupting. I just have all these try to write them down more.
I totally appreciate it. It's awesome. And I'm sure the people in the online audience appreciate it too. So again, coaching your clients, super, super important. With these images, when you give yourself time, you can begin to think outside the box. So whether it's you've had a half an hour with them or you've had 20 minutes with them, and you need to start making up some sort of way to gain more imagery of them or portraiture, start to think outside of the box. You can use common areas, you can use reflections, you can use off-camera flash. There are a ton of photographers that I'm inspired by that create wherever they are. And it doesn't matter if they're in the most beautiful spot. It depends on how much they're trying, how much they care. For me, if I don't get a ton of time with the client on the day, then I will literally, again, I will create throughout the night. And this is one of those images for me that kind of sticks out in my mind, where we didn't get a ton of time during the day. It was a little broken up, but throughout the night I kept creating with them. I kept finding spots. I kept finding ideas in my own head that would bring them back to the moment of, hey, this is about your wedding. Let me help you, come back to that moment for a second, and relive it, and have this image to be on your wall as a wall piece, and again, make you think. This image was taken with my cell phone. Not actually taken with my cell phone. It was, the reflection is actually my cell phone. Awesome image. When they saw it, they like freaked out. It was a really cool, joyful moment. And if I hadn't sat there and gone, hey, what would be really cool to bring them away from the party for a second and just allow them to calm down a little bit throughout the night. I don't know if this image would exist. So think outside the box, guys. Don't be afraid to use reflections, use different lighting sources. A lot of times at venues, there will be outdoor lighting. So play around with it. And the only way that you're going to do that is through trying it yourself. So go try it prior to the wedding day or the portrait session. See what it looks like, and keep thinking outside the box. My goal, like in the previous we've been talking, is to be able to create anywhere. And part of this is you have to know your camera, you have to know lighting, you have to go out and try things and know what light is going to do, know how to manipulate light, and also knowing how to achieve joy and laughter. So a lot of those things that I was talking about earlier with the games, like coming up with fun things that you can do with clients prior to their shoot. Again, it might be specific to you. You can use the pizza game. I don't really care. Use it, but try and come up with different things that will get them out of their shells, or will get them to have fun in front of your camera. And don't forget that they're people. So creating anywhere, know your camera, know your lighting, and know how to achieve joy and laughter, or emotion, whatever it is that you really, really are after. The only way that we can do that, though, is if we start by asking our clients to create with us. Again, knowing your camera settings, huge. Knowing the lighting, those are all back-end type things. Excuse me. Those are all back-end type things, but if we don't ask our clients to participate with us, they're never going to know what we could have done with them. So this is huge. Confidence is huge. And the only way in my mind that we can gain confidence is by practice. You guys have to practice. You have to go out prior to the sessions, even if it's 5 minutes a day. Go be in a space. I always tell people, go to a parking garage, go to somewhere that you would least expect, and just look and observe light. Take your girlfriend, take your boyfriend, take your friend. I'm sure that a ton of us go to lunch. Take your friend, go look and see what light does. Start to examine it. But again, the only way that you're going to be able to achieve these things with your clients is practice. You have to practice these things. I used to walk probably about an hour a day, and I would just walk around my city and look at the light, look at the available light that was there. I would walk through parking garages. I would walk through industrial areas. I would walk down by the ocean. I would walk through, nature preserves, all that kind of stuff. And what it starts to begin to do for you is, instead of being at the forefront of your mind when you're creating for a client, you've already done the back work. It's already a part of you. So when you're in those moments, you're going to know exactly what to do. You're going to know exactly what you want, or maybe it might take some time, like I'm telling you, but you're gonna have a vision, and that will become less of a hindrance for you. So again, guys, practice. You have to. Talking about ways to use light. I tend to stay in one location long enough to allow myself to see the small differences. So again, I could go up to the mountaintop and it would be a beautiful image, but what can I do in those small little moments in transition, for instance, in a wedding, where there might not be this ability to go out and take 20 to 15 minutes to go get that mountaintop view. And again, this image that's on the screen is a huge way to do that, or not a huge way to do that. It's a way to do it, where I'm using available light. There's fairly harsh light on both of their faces, but in terms of positioning them, layering them, that's a huge aspect of being able to use available light and create any type of location. So if you have shot in one location before, a lot of photographers are like, oh my gosh, I've shot in the same location over and over and over. Well, number one, see if you can go to a different location. Number two, if you can't, use a different view. Turn around. Use harsh light. See how you can layer the client. In this image, he's more in the foreground. She's in the background. And as I was coaching him through this moment, literally behind us was the reception. So, or behind me was the reception. So they're still having fun. They're still kind of interacting. And I was just trying to get one image in this moment because I saw the light, and I was like, hey guys, I just want to bring you here for one shot. And it took a couple shots. I had to do a couple different variations of it. But this is one way to play with light, staying in one area, changing head position side to side, and just having fun. I will seek out shapes. I will seek out light that casts a different type of shadow. Again, you can find this in industrial areas. You can find it, I would say, fairly anywhere. But I love playing with architecture. I love playing with light and shadow. And again, this is a layered image. So do not be afraid to be inspired by, I would say, other photographers' work, or mine, or your own mind. Start to layer clients, start to layer the couples. Just because there's harsh light doesn't mean that they need to look into the light. They can look away from the light. They can be in the shadow. You can create a portrait with basically anything, in my mind. So letting light be what it is and fitting into it is sometimes what I like to do. Again, we're bringing in this, bringing something into creation. So how can we use basically what's in front of us to create something interesting? Knowing your camera is huge. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Know what your camera is capable of. This image was brought out a little bit in post, but knowing your camera, knowing the lighting, and whether it's a calm moment or joyous moment, being able to pull that out in the clients. Our eyes can see 30 stops in variation of light. I could be off on that a little bit. It could be 28 stops, whatever it is. But I'm pretty sure it's 30 stops of variation on light. So how can I achieve what I'm seeing in real life? The only way you're going to be able to do that is knowing your equipment, knowing your camera. So practicing, knowing how far you can push and pull an image. This image, the sunset was off to their 45 degrees off of their back shoulder. You can kind of see the sun coming out of the side there. And I purposely underexposed the image a little bit so that I could achieve this look. I could achieve the sunset and the colors and their skin tones and things like that. So one aspect you can bring into your photography is going out and practicing and seeing what it is that your camera is capable of. A lot of people will say, well, I don't shoot with the most high-end camera. Well, you can still achieve something that will be, I think, mind-blowing if you just go out and practice and see what your camera is capable of, see what you can pull out of an image in post. Find that range, know that range. When I took this image, it was something that was second nature. I saw the image. I knew where my settings were going to be because I had practiced, because I had coached them through, hey, I'm doing the back end work to your session, and you're going to be allowed to be in that moment. So again, knowing your camera, your lighting, and then creating some sort of emotion in the imagery with them. This was in Mexico, by the way, so I'm not too unhappy with being there as well. It's an awesome location.
Santa Barbara, Mexico. I mean, I didn't know which coastline we were looking at,
Italy,
but it's beautiful.
Yeah. This image is in Santa Barbara as well. So again, going back to underexposing or knowing your camera and your equipment. Again, when you practice and when you know how you're being intentional, when you've coached them, when they know what to expect, when they know that you're going to be intentional with them in the sense that you're going to find out who they are, you care about them, you're capturing their relationship, you know your camera, you know your light, you're pulling these emotions out of them. It's time to have faith, and this is huge. Sometimes I have to even put away all the rest of it and just say, you know what, I'm gonna take this image, regardless of what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna take it, and they're having a blast. They're having a moment themselves, and you can create images like this where they're just they stop you dead in your tracks. They're beautiful. And it's partly because I did the front end work to allowing them in this moment just to be. They didn't have a care in the world. They just trusted me. And when you have faith in that, when you have faith in yourself and you have the confidence to do that, you end up with imagery like this. And try, guys, whatever it is that you're photographing, go out, have faith in yourself, start practicing, start getting to know your camera better, start coaching your clients earlier rather than later. And even if it's later, still coach them. That's what they're there for. That's why they are coming to you, is for your expertise. So don't be afraid to push for them, to use your actual expertise. Again, this image was taken at sunlight or sunset. It was about 2 stops underexposed. And I pulled the shadows out and warmed up the shadows a little bit, and this is what I got, and I'm just super, super happy with it. So I want to move into Jared. Do you have any questions so far?
What? No. I have a couple written down, but I wanted to
Okay.
let you I want to let you keep going.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I'm taking into account if you have anything on your mind. So I want to talk about my gear quickly. I think it's important to keep it simple. Simplicity to me, when you restrict certain things, it begets art. It begets creativity. So I try to keep my setup fairly simple. I do use hold fast straps, the money makers. They're absolutely fantastic. It allows me to use 2 camera bodies, which some might say that's not simplistic, but the point of it is I want to be able to shoot with 2 lenses. I shoot only fixed lenses, typically with a 35 millimeter and a 51.2. And excuse me, my voice broke there. What I want to do is I want to change lenses less. I want the experience for the client to be less stressful, or like, hey, what's he doing? Why is he constantly changing a lens? So that's why I shoot with 2 camera bodies. As you'll see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lenses, but I typically only use about 2 of them during the shoot. So I will take my lens bag and have a couple different variations or some variety in there, but I try to keep it to the 50 millimeter, my 35 millimeter, and I also use my tilt shift in there to spice it up a little bit. I'm not too huge on off-camera flash. I will use it during receptions, but that's typically where I keep it. I don't like to make my setup any slower than it needs to be. And I really do think that my connection with my clients is more important than my gear. So I would rather have a simple setup, 1 lens, 2 lenses, that's it, and really concentrate on what it is that I'm pulling out of them. I sometimes actually will use my cell phone. Sometimes it's fun to take some images with your cell phone and show them that they can actually take really great images. So I will pull out my cell phone every once in a while and use that. I will also use it as a reflection. Um, and I do have a video light every once in a while for random fill light needs during for stance or anything that has like a low light where I'm pushing my camera a little bit too much, and I want to still achieve some sort of less noise in the image, less grittiness. So I will pull that out every once in a while, but that's fairly rare. So in terms of my kit, that's the gist of it. And if you guys have questions, any questions there, please by all means hit me up. Love to give you my take on all those things. But again, hold fast straps. If you guys haven't checked them out, you guys need to check them out. Amazing.
It's
At literally every wedding, somebody's like, dude, those straps are so cool. Like, did you make those? I'm like, no, it's this company Hold Fast. Like, you gotta go check them out. They're amazing. So
we've had a booth at Shoot.Edit when we've done some trade shows. We've had a booth across from Hold Fast, and so I got to stare at all day as I was at the booth. We got to watch so many people come up and get fitted for these Hold Fast
yeah,
straps, and I'll tell you they are not only are they incredibly functional, like you talked about in the way that they work and the way they help photographers really minimize the amount of stuff that they have to do to just keep track of their gear all day. But boy, they look good too.
yeah.
They look good. They fit well. Is every one of them tailored to photographers? I've only watched them when they're at the trade shows and they're fitting them to every photographer, but they look so custom.
They are semi-customable or customizable.
Customizable. Yep.
Customizable. But for the most part, I would say they have different sizes, but they're customizable to your body type. So you can actually lengthen and shorten the straps. So whatever feels comfortable for you, that's kind of built into the product itself. So if you haven't tried them on, try them on. It really, when I'm talking with my clients or photographers, I'm always bringing up how important it is to actually be connected to them. So having these straps and having the cameras hang by your side, or a camera, whatever you're using, is so important because it allows you to use your hands. It allows you to like walk with them. Sometimes put your, a lot of the times I'll be walking with the guy, with the groom, and I'll like put my hand on his shoulder, and it allows me to be present with them, and that's huge for me. So the hold fast straps are awesome. Again, I use the Shoot Sack lens bag. That's an amazing product. If you guys haven't checked them out, super lightweight bag, keeps your lenses fairly safe, fairly protected, without a big bulky bag on your back. So check those guys out as well.
I also really love, so a lot of people, I love that you touched on your use, specifically you touched on your use of off-camera flash, because a lot of people joining today probably recently accessed our off-camera flash guide that we produced. We released it last week with, we did it in conjunction with SLR Lounge, and it was entirely focused on how to incorporate off-camera flash as a wedding photographer. And so it's really great because I mean, there's so many different ways to bring creativity to your shoots. There's so many different ways to bring creativity. And what we're seeing here is Montana talking about how he approaches the wedding day and how it's vastly different than some of the examples that we had in our guide last week. And a lot of people watching today probably also accessed the guide we produced last week. And so you can really see, I think, just in line with exactly what Montana's been talking about, the whole online training, about how important it is that you understand what you want, you understand what your client wants, and then you utilize your tools and your creativity to achieve that. Again, not to try to over summarize it, but it's so striking to me that last week we were talking all off-camera flash all week here at Shoot.edit. Now this week we're really focused on this online training, and this online training is really all about creating sans off camera flash. It's really inspiring. Yeah.
Again, I love keeping it light, keeping it simple. I'm not afraid to use off camera flash, but when it comes to it, I think there's something really neat about using available light. It's kind of a little bit more true to the moment sometimes.
Great.
So with that, guys, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I hope that you found good information out of this. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm sure we're going to have some contact information up after this. But thank you again. I hope that you gained a ton of inspiration from it. Go out there, create, practice, know your stuff. Start to get a little bit more intentional with your clients. Start to get to know them, because it will change how your photography, how you capture your photography. And how you present it. So thank you again, Jared. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Thank you. Are you kidding? This has been wonderful. It's such a good time of year to be talking about this. I mean, we talked about that at the intro, but it's really, thank you for bringing your thoughts and how you approach creativity.
Sure.
So that, not just the process you go through, but some of the steps you take to make it easier for yourself through your communication, through the gear you choose. I mean, really a wonderful take on it. And I've actually got some questions here. That I want to present. I know that one of the best parts about these is, as you're talking, everyone's asking questions and talking in the chat, the chat forums, and so that's another great place to get your questions answered. And we'll talk about some of those things here. Going back to the beginning of your presentation, and you talked about asking questions. You talked about that process you go through. When we had talked even at one point about how it is a process that you're really actually taking their answers. You talked about that adventurous person, that adventurous couple, and how that did incorporate into the photo itself, the photo shoot itself. Let me ask you something, because I think a lot of people struggle with this, or at least a lot of people wonder about this. When you're asking people these questions, some of them personal, some of them not personal, some of them kind of intended to really learn what's unique about them. How do you ask? How do you get answers in a way that doesn't just get a typical, response? How do you really cut into understanding these people that you just met? You just kind of got to know them in the last month or so. How do you get the answers you need to be creating images that are unique to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe in listening to my clients. So when they when we're first interacting, we're first having our first phone calls. Most people put up some barriers, so they will say like, we're just here. We just want to know, what your prices are. What this looks like. And my goal is to not necessarily withhold that information. What I want to do is say, hey, we're going to talk about that, but for me to really get an understanding, because as much as it is an interview for them, it's an interview for me. So I need to know if they understand who I am, if they understand how I create and why I'm creating. So it's not that I won't answer that question. It's that, hey, I want to find out a little bit more about you two. So talk to me about your day. Talk to me about who you guys are as a couple. And typically, they'll kind of go back and forth. And if you're listening and if you're paying attention, they will say, oh my gosh, well, we met here, we did this. He's such a great guy. Okay, well, tell me how he's a great guy. Like, what are some aspects of that you can kind of lead me down to get to know this guy? And she'll start talking, or could go both ways. And as they keep going, I will find out more and more information. And it's your job as the photographer to be listening, because I feel like a lot of people, again, going back to, treat people how you want to be treated. Well, that's somewhat very, I would say somewhat self-centered, where if I'm treating them how they want to be treated, I'm listening to them. I'm saying, hey, what are the things that you're saying to me that I can pull more information from? Oh my gosh, he's so caring. Okay, well, how is he caring? How does he care for you? Oh, he does this, he does that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, how do you feel in those moments? Are you feel special? Like, what does that look like? So just in, and I know that I'm having a conversation with myself, but just in less than 2 minutes, I've gotten much deeper than, hey, what's your wedding day look like? How much do you guys want to spend? What is that? Okay, here's my invoice. Which, if it worked that way, that would be great. But I think asking those questions and letting them tell you, and actually listening to ask another question to get a little bit deeper, that's how I do it. I mean, that's just basic conversational skills that we all need to practice at.
Right. I was going to say, I think you might be good enough at this point to consider them basic conversational skills, but even some of the ways you ask those questions are really insightful. Some examples you just kind of off the cuff are really helpful and insightful.
And I'm glad you asked that, because when I said those are basic conversational skills, I went, wait, no, those aren't. Like, people are. They're
still basic for those. You, right? Because you've been doing it for so long. Sometimes those things that you do that are so unique are so revolutionary for other people or something. That's what's so great about some of these trainings we do.
And also, Jared, to ask them the question, hey, how do you guys see yourself as artistic people? Do you see yourself as creative people? And sometimes they'll say no. And I say, okay, well, what is it that you see in my imagery that you love? So just in those questions right there, you begin to get a deeper understanding of who they are and why they're sitting in front of you or on the phone. So
that's great.
I appreciate that question.
Let's move ahead. Another area that you talked a lot about, you even walked through an example of something you did. I was going to dig a little deeper on that. That's how to practice. You talked about practicing. You had that amazing image, actually. I was going to ask you, but I didn't want to interrupt you, about with the two people on the side of that rock. And I'm like, how did you get that image? But
the side of the, oh yeah. I'll go back for those.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome for a bit of referencing. But you talked about one example. There it is. Oh man, I don't even know how you got that. But you talked about kind of going on a walk every evening and learning how to see light. I don't remember if it was in this section in regards to practice or if it was in a different section, but what are some practical ways that photographers can practice, that they can practice being creative? It's almost like a muscle that maybe a lot of people aren't flexing, like the creativity muscle is something that needs to be exercised, so that on the wedding day, when it's the hardest to use it, or when it's the hardest to kind of leverage that muscle, you've practiced, you've trained for it. How do you train? What are some other ideas you might have for how photographers can go practice?
Great question. I feel like we could spend so much time on that, but
I know, right? Sorry.
No. It's a great question. So what comes to mind right off the bat is if you're a photographer and you're photographing people and you are interested in using light differently, if you're inspired by my work or somebody else's work that you really love, or if you're strictly just inspired by light itself, limit your camera or your gear. So take your camera out, take one lens, whatever your favorite lens is, and go walking around. Again, people go to lunch, people go to coffee, people go for walks. Use your friends. Don't be afraid to ask your friend, hey, do you mind just standing over there for 1 second? I just have this idea. I want to see if I can capture it. And most people will be stoked to do it because you're one, a professional photographer. And number two, people actually do like having cool photos of themselves. So if they get a cool photo out of it, say, hey, I want to, can you just stand over for 1 second? I want to see if I can capture this. I'll give you this image if it turns out. And what happens is when you start to limit your gear, you start to limit or restrict the area that you are actually creating in, you'll start to see things a little differently. They as in scientists or I'm just going to say scientists, they've done studies on, which a great book to read is Blink and gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it now. The Shallows. They talk about how, number one, how the internet has affected our brains and all these kind of things, and also how children's activity and people's activity goes way up when they're limited, when they're restricted in certain areas. So that being a short answer, go check out those books, Blink and The Shallows.
We'll get a link. We'll get a link posted in the chats for those of you who are listening that want to
for sure
want to have more information on that. Is Blink the Malcolm Gladwell book?
Yes.
That's a good one. I've read that one. I haven't read The Shallows though.
Yeah, The Shallows is all about the internet and how it's affecting our brains. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, when we restrict our area, we become much more creative, and I'm sure people that are listening, that I'm sure they've been in certain situations. Maybe it hasn't been at a wedding or a portrait session when they've been restricted in life and they begin to think outside the box. Like, well, I mean, we do it as kids. Hey, you can't go there. You're not going tonight. Well, all of a sudden, initially, the kid goes, I'm going to start being creative in how I ask my parents, how I start to like try and go to the place that I want to go to, right? So we start to create. And it's the same thing when we limit our locations, when we limit all the stuff that we have, we start to think outside the box. We start to create in those moments, which is where we actually need to be. So take your camera, take one lens, ask a friend. If you don't have a friend, go somewhere that you're inspired. I mean, walk down the street and just see if you can be, on the way to that place that you're going to be inspired to. See if you can create along the way. Take 30 minutes out of your day and just go for a walk or drive to an area where you've never created before and just kind of look around, see what inspires you about that location. You might find it fairly interesting what you come up with.
Some great tips. Yeah, I mean, we could do probably an entire online training on how to practice. But you're exactly right. Like, I hadn't thought about the connection between what you were talking about and how closely connected it is actually to the very situation wedding photographers are under. When you're at a wedding, most of what you're dealing with is limiting. Your creativity can be limited because of the restrictions that are put on you there, exactly. And almost even practicing how to be able to get something that is creative when you're limited is such a great muscle to learn how to flex and exercise it. Because at a wedding day, either it's time or it's light or it's your background or it's your, the couple isn't in a good mood or one is not interacting well. There's so many limitations oftentimes that are limiting factors in your creativity. Learning how to push through that and be creative. That's a great way to practice almost for a live wedding day.
For sure. And I want to be completely honest here, Jared. a lot of people are looking for quick fixes these
Right.
days, and I want to reiterate that this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Um, I can tell you all this information, and I think the biggest piece of information that I give you is it's going to be a journey, and you're going to go out and practice tomorrow. Somebody's going to get inspiration, be like, "Oh, I'm going to go do that," and they're going to go do it, and they might fall on their butt.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep going. You have to get up again, and you have to go and practice. There's no other way that you can. Some people have a natural ability to be super creative, but if you struggle with that, you're going to have to practice more. And what's going to be cool about it is when you succeed, you're going to see all that time that you did put into it, and you're going to be stoked about it, and you're going to celebrate it.
Right.
So don't look for the quick fix here. Take your time. Take your time and invest in your vision. Invest in your site.
Well, thanks for bringing such a great, well thought out presentation today. And again, so well timed for when it's, middle to end of May here, and just such a great opportunity for photographers to prep for their busy season coming up. Most photographers around the world are facing a busy season, coming up next few months. I know if you're some of those that come, we have people that come from all over the world every time. And if you're in Australia, New Zealand, Arizona, maybe Texas, Florida, some of you are not entering your busy season, but the rest of the world is kind of going into a summer busy season here where this stuff is going to serve them really well. And a couple quick reminders before we wrap everything up here. Number one, big shout out and thank you to the companies that supported this online training today with Montana. We talked about Hold Fast and the straps and how great they are. Also, Lens Pro to Go. I mean, it worked in really well. If you're at that point where you're feeling like you are creatively limited by a lot of the gear you have, you don't necessarily have to buy it right off the bat. You can test it, you can practice it, you can play with it. Lens Pro to Go is a great spot to go for that. And we're really thankful for their support here
awesome.
today. Yeah. Let's see. A reminder that this online training is going to be available for replay. So for those of you who joined us live here today, you're going to get an email about the replay. And I always encourage everybody to go back. It'll be available for about 48 hours. It's usually how long the replay is available. So as soon as you get in your inbox, you have about 48 hours to watch that replay. And if you didn't join us live and you're watching the replay, like I said, it's about 48 hours, but still get an opportunity to watch everything you had here. If you watched it and you kind of weren't able to take enough notes, great opportunity to go back and rewatch. Also great to share with a friend. If you know of somebody in your area or a friend of yours that would really benefit from it, it's a great opportunity to share it with them because it isn't just a live event. We do have the replay available for about 48 hours. Montana, thanks for joining today. We really appreciate everything you put together, and I hope it inspired a lot of people that were watching today.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's a wrap. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Be well, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.